Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben and this is the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Hey family, I hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. This is episode 10 of season 5. This season covers the 2019 Australian competitive barbecue circuit and includes recordings from some of the biggest and best festivals from all over this beautiful wide brown land of ours. In short, I'm going to be spending the year flying, driving, eating, walking and talking my way around Australia, and I'm bringing you along for the ride. Once again, it's a local competition for me, the Brisbane BBQ Festival. This year marked the 5th year that this festival has run. The first year was my first ever judging experience, and you can read about that on the website. I've been involved every year since, and this year was perhaps the biggest year yet. There were 2 stages running, a live music stage and a barbecue stage. On the barbecue stage, we had demonstrations, Q&A sessions, exhibitions, and eating competitions running over 2 whole days. It was a killer weekend, and I was really excited to have been a part of it. Before we get into it, I'd like to let you know about our awesome online shop. Our Hail Mary t-shirt has been hugely successful, and this week I just updated the shop with our second order, which includes big boy sizes, all the way up to 5XL. The shirts are black, have the classic SHC logo on the front, Mary on the back, and come in both men's and women's cuts. If you're after some of the best looking barbecue shirts out there, check them out at smokinghotconfessions.com/shop. I'd also like to invite you to join us at the Smoking Hot Confessions community on Facebook. If you're looking for a barbecue group that is full of open-minded people who just love to help each other out, the Smoking Hot Confessions community is a great place to continue the conversation. Finally, however you listen to this episode, please subscribe, rate and review the show. It really helps me spread that barbecue love. So without further ado, grab yourself a double hopped IPA and some soft squishy burnt ends and join me at the sunny Brisbane BBQ Festival.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
All right, works better when you turn it on. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben. I'm from Smoking Hot Confessions. If you're looking for a website that's got recipes, tips, how-tos, and Australia's leading barbecue podcast, jump on there, check it out, smokinghotconfessions.com. What we got coming up right now is we've got a Pitmaster Q&A session. So I've grabbed 3 of the team captains of the best teams out here today on the paddock. And we've got Josh from Zed's Q, Chris from Smokin' Hot Bros, and Matt from Smokin' Sappers, who you'll recognise from this morning with his pork rib demo. Can we have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming them to the Q&A session? Alrighty, so each of these lads have been cooking barbecue for several years now, and they've got loads of experience, some overseas competitions under their belts, all that sort of stuff. So if you've got any question that you'd like to ask, just stick your hand in the air and I'll run the mic out to you. And I'll kick things off. I'm going to put just a bit of an open question to the panel. There's a whole bunch of different types of smokers here today. And a lot of people, when they jump on the internet, they look up smoking, they see these huge, giant offset smokers. Is that what people need to be beginning with?
No. So when people start out, they see these smokers and straight away they'll jump on barbecues galore and $800, $600, whatever dollars. Oh, yeah, I'll get into it this way. I think there's a learning curve there that can be easily skipped if you're on something smaller, something easier to manage. So, long story short, no. I think someone else want to talk about the different types?
So, for those of you that saw me this morning, like I ran through that, how to cook those ribs on a Weber kettle. Weber kettle is fine. Like, it is all you need. Find one on the side of the road that somebody doesn't know how to use, and their wife has made them put it on the side of the road. Take it home, and then hopefully your wife won't make you put it on the side of the road. All right? So use it. Learn how to use it. Practice with it. It doesn't cost much. Just spend a little bit of time with it, and that's all you've got to do. You don't need to go and spend a heap of money on these big smokers. So my smoker, my offset smoker, I bought off Chris 3 years ago. Yeah, I bought it off Chris 3 years ago after I'd worked my way through Weber kettles, and in competing, I needed more space. Other than that, you don't need it. I don't use it at home. I use my kettles, and that's about it.
The other advice I can give is how time poor are you, is my advice on barbecue. So if you're a busy person on the weekends, you haven't got much time to, start a fire, get it running, you've got a lot of kids or family, you might want to look at different options. There's pellet grills where it's a set and forget. So literally you fill up the hopper, set the temperature, flick on a switch, and put in your protein, and away you go. If you're like me, a bit of a firebug, you like the offset, making a fire, you like to sit down and enjoy a nice beer or six, and just relax and have the afternoon to yourself and cook and work on that fire management. Or you can go a cheaper option with these verticals. You can get from different outlets at the moment, from a range from $250 to about $600-700, and they're portable. I have one and I take it to the beach. You can build as high as you want or small as you want, and you can cook the exact same food as all three of these pits that we've just been talking about. So I put it down to how time poor are you and how much time do you have. That's what I would make my decision on if I was starting out in barbecue.
One of the core elements is the same across the board here. We're cooking on coal or wood powered. That's what we're actually using, the heat source. So as long as you're not cooking on gas, any of us here will consider you a barbecuer. Well, gas is fine, but each to his own.
No, it's not.
Yeah, just a question on what about the eggs, the ceramic eggs, as opposed to the Weber?
Kamado Joe's or the Big Green Eggs. If I was to personally pick a pit for home, that would be the first unit I would buy, is a ceramic smoker. The heat retention, for one. It's used very minimal fuel. You can do the low and slow cuts, so you can do a very small, mild cut from like a steak all the way up to a big brisket, depending on the size egg or ceramic you buy, all the way up to pizzas. And there's so many different accessories you can buy for them, like big rotisseries and all that kind of stuff. You can literally set it up before you go to bed, put a brisket on, shut it right down to a nice low temperature, and wake up 10 hours later and it's still going and it'll still hold the heat. And it's just one of those beautiful things about these ceramics is the heat retention it holds. And the flavor it gets out of these some of the coal you get, if you get a really good lump coal, the flavor you get from it, from that char on steaks, it's second to none. Honestly, they're probably one of the best on the market personally, and they will outlast anything like all these big steel ones or your smaller kind of say ProQs or Finettos, the verticals. They'll outlast those. So that'll be something I would invest that sort of money into if I was looking for something that's be on my back porch or deck and sit there and easily cook on.
So Kamados are amazing. What Chris just said, they are, like, those ceramics are amazing, whether it be a Kamado or a Primo or whatever it is that you want to buy. They don't travel well. So if you're buying one, it sits on your back patio, and that's where you live forever. They're heavy. They are, and you know what? If I didn't move around as much as I have to move around, I would have one. Absolutely.
I did actually see a fellow at a barbecue competition once who was using Big Green Eggs to compete with, and he had to actually go and get a furniture removalist's chest harness, put that on, hook himself onto the Big Green Egg, lower his legs right down, wrap his arms around it, pick it up, and then sort of waddle to his truck with this Big Green Egg strapped to his chest. It was something to behold. Really, really funny stuff. If you do have any questions, do just put your hand in there and I will bring you the mic. One question I'd like to throw out to you all is when people are looking to get into competitive barbecue, they jump on YouTube, they jump on Google, they look at these videos, they read these websites, and they'll see things like cook at 275 for 5 hours until internal temperature of 195, and they obsess about the numbers. How important are the numbers?
Not at all, really. So, well, yes and no. I think it's great to get a good baseline. So when you're learning, you need to know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. You don't want to do things wrong twice, 3 times, because your wife or whomever you're cooking for won't let you cook it again. So what I mean by that is pick a temp. You can easily Google the temps that you should be cooking at and use that as a baseline. I don't know if Ben was trying to plug me there, but you can look for videos on the internet. So I released one last night for pork ribs. As Matty explained before, Australian pork is trimmed very differently to American pork. So, for example, the 3-2-1, like Ben was saying, you do that in Australia, as Matt so well said before, it will fall apart. So you really need to more so cook to feel and actual done temperature, more so than just look at your thermometer on your barbecue, which is inevitably going to be wrong, and then cook it for this amount of time. So one of the best investments you can make in barbecue is one of these, an instant read thermometer. Know your done temperatures, and also this thing, a probe, learning what done feelness. So what would you call it? Probe doneness. Probe doneness is probe like butter. Yep. So that's how you want to be learning how to cook.
He's referring to the resistance against the probe when you do insert that into the protein there.
So people do. They obsess over it. They're like, oh, but I only took it. It's only reached 188, but it's probing really well. Should I keep going? Like, what? Why? If it probes like room temperature butter, take it out, rest it, slice it, eat it. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. If you keep cooking it, it's going to fall apart. But if you're having to force that probe or a bamboo skewer into it, if you have to put any pressure into it at all, then it's not cooked. So people will whinge about like a tough or like what they call an overcooked brisket, for example, which will be, oh, it's chewy, so it's overcooked. That's not how it works. If a brisket's chewy, it's undercooked, well undercooked. So brisket is it's a beast that you learn over time, and it costs money to figure it out. But again, like I said, you have to learn your pit, regardless of what pit you use, and you have to learn what that cut of meat is like, and sort of, especially for competition stuff, like you have to learn how it feels, understand and maintain that consistency of that type of meat. Consistency is important. Buy the same type of meat. So if you're buying a certain brand, just keep buying that brand until you're happy with the way that it cooks. Yeah, because it'll generally be, those beasts will be raised the same way. Okay, so they'll spend 100 days in a feedlot, or they'll be grass fed, or spend 200 days, and if you're really, really rich, they'll spend 300 days in a feedlot. Yeah, but the most important thing is how it feels when you slide that probe in. That is it. Temperature's a guide. That probe is what really should drive you as to how this is done, this isn't done.
I'd like to add, the biggest thing I learned starting out was every pit is different, like Matty was touching. So every pit will have a sweet spot. And a lot of my classes I come to, everyone goes, I can't keep my pit at 250. It struggles. It just keeps going up and down. It fluctuates. What do I do? And I said, well, first thing I'll do, say it's a Weber, I'll load it up, open the vents, get it hot, and see where it sits. It might sit at 275. It might sit at 300. It might sit at 325. I would adjust my time that I'm cooking, then rather try and adjust your temperature to your pit. So every pit has a nice sweet spot where it likes to cook and just sit there and just smoke away, and you'll get a much better consistent cook by you adapting to your smoker and learning how it runs rather than you trying to adjust the smoker to how you want it to run. So that's my best advice with, I've taught a lot of people and they've come back to me and said, I was had the best cook ever on our brisket or beef ribs the other day because it just sat there at the temperature it wanted to. A good example, I have two Pro Qs, exact same model. One likes it 275, one likes it at 305. I don't know why. They got the same fuel in it, but they are both different units that just like sitting at a certain temperature. One cooks quicker than the other, so be it. So that's my best advice.
I've been married for 23 years. Treat your smoker like you treat your wife. Don't try to make her do something she doesn't want to do. Yeah? And your life is heaps easier.
Hey, boys. Matt, you just touched on this before. Meat selection, how important is it, and how important is the relationship with the butcher that you trust?
So, and I raised this earlier as well. your selection of meat will come down to your own beliefs, like how you feel about how those animals are raised, and then like your butcher himself. So I use small businesses always, and I might pay a little bit more, but it's a small business, and he's like, he's putting his kids through school. I can talk to him on the same basis, or her. It doesn't matter. I have a relationship, and it's about building that relationship with that small business owner for me, and him understanding what my needs are. So for me, my butcher, he asks me, like, what do you want, Matt? Do you want grass-fed? Do you want grain-finished? Do you want feedlot? Do you want Wagyu? What? And I will tell him, like, this is what I want. I want to try this. It's a thing that you can't do in a supermarket, and it's a thing that I've found, like, I don't know. Like, I've seen lately in like supermarkets, pre-cooked brisket in a sealed thing, and it tells you to put it in hot water and cook it. Yeah? Please don't do that. Like, I beg you, please. For the love of God.
It goes against everything we stand for.
All right, so building that relationship with your local butcher, not only will they start to get the meats that you want and start to get the meats that you feel you're comfortable with, you can then, and in a lot of cases, you can go to that butcher and he will trace you back to the bunch of farms that those animals were raised on. And this is how the animals was raised. This is the life that I had. You don't have to go and buy a Marble Score 8 Wagyu brisket in the hope that it's going to be good. Like, you don't. Brisket is a tough piece of meat. It used to go in sausages and hamburgers. Yeah? Nowadays, it's become, well, probably because of us, it's become a little bit more than it was. But the whole point behind Low and Slow Barbecue is to take that tough, nasty, overworked piece of meat that tastes amazing. It just takes effort to eat and make it effortless to eat. Yeah, and add those flavor bases. But to answer your question, mate, like that relationship that you build with your butcher is probably the most important thing when it comes to this. From my perspective, it is the most important thing. Understanding what he's doing, where they're coming from, what is that purpose behind that.
I'm just going to interrupt and just add something to that as well. Please put your hand up if you love it when you're at work and someone walks up and tells you how to do your job. Can you put your hand in the air? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. 2 people. Oh, you actually enjoy that. Wow. Okay. Another aspect of the importance of the relationship with your butcher is that Australian butchers are not necessarily in the past have not been trained to cut the proteins in the way that we need for this American style low and slow. That they've been trained in how the markets have traditionally wanted the cuts done in Australia. So, for example, pork belly has always been more popular in Australia than pork ribs until the last sort of couple of years. So if you've got that good relationship with the butcher, you can walk in and you can say, hey, listen, man, I need you to cut it this way, please, this. You're much more likely to get a positive response than if you just walk in and go, hey, I want this, and this. So that's another aspect to consider in the importance of forging a relationship with a butcher.
Another tangent that's still kind of related to Ad's question, but in terms of meat selection as such, looking past that, like, you only get out what you put into your barbecue as well. So if you're just getting crappy meat and you throw it on the barbecue, it's not going to come out nice. So leading off what Maddie said as well before, treat it like your wife. Just look at the cut of meat as well. If it's falling off and it's thinner on one side, fatter on one side, you want to try and slow down the cook on that thinner side. Just treat that piece of meat with the respect from the animal that it's come from, and you're going to end up with a much better end result.
Did you just call your wife a piece of meat?
I was going to say, I think we need to...
Anyway.
I think it's time to change analogies here, gentlemen. We're going to get ourselves into trouble real quick, Smart. We do not mean to offend any of the ladies in the audience by likening them to pieces of meat. And we're going to change the way we speak about that as of now. But I do have another question over here from this gentleman, please.
Yeah, mate, you mentioned earlier you could, with the egg, you could load it up before you went to sleep and then wake up and it's all there ready to go. With mine, I don't trust it to do that yet, and I'm wondering starting from the very beginning with the build of the coals and stuff like that, because it might make it to 5 or 6 hours and then run out of steam. So I'm thinking the whole process starts right at the start with your coal management.
Yeah, so another good point with fire management is the same thing with your protein is a good fuel source, a good solid fuel source. So I'm not sure what fuel you're using in the Kamado, but a good natural lump that holds good heat. It depends on how much you're putting in. And also when you start the Kamados, if you're doing a long cook, so when you're starting up like a kettle starter, you have this chimney full of charcoal that you start up. I only light half the chimney and I only half light the chimney. So, and I'll do like a minion method where I have like the unlit charcoal on the outside, empty in the middle of the basket. I have a few chunks of smoke plugs, so little bits of smoke wood around the outside. And then I'll pour that half lit, half full canister into the middle. So it's going to create a slow burn. So it's going to slowly ignite the rest of the coals and it's going to slowly build up because you want to do that long cook. If I was going to do a steak or something a bit quicker, I would light that chimney full and I'd get that really hot. So if you were to throw in a full lit chimney, it'll expand and spread through those coals a lot quicker and create more heat and it'll be harder to control. So that's probably my advice to try, or even try through the daytime, so early start in the morning, try a different method and just watch it. So you've got, obviously might mow the lawns or wash your car or, do the washing for your missus, do something nice. Something different that you can try during the day while you're awake and while you're observant and vigilant of what's going on before you do the night cook. Like, it's nothing like throwing on $200 piece of brisket and waking up in the morning and it's, stone cold and you got to throw it in the bin. So, yeah.
Sorry, Matty. There's also no reason that you've got to put a piece of meat on that barbecue, mate. It comes back to what Matty said. You just, Chris probably, just learning your barbecue. So we've talked about establishing a good charcoal base, but also knowing the correct vent settings, knowing how your barbecue is going to react to the ambient temperature, gusts of wind, everything, every minor change in the environment is going to change how you operate your barbecue. And our job as pit masters, we have to anticipate what's going to happen to our barbecues and counter for that before it's even happened. So, but one other cheat, it's a bit like pellets, you can have air controllers. So if you're not confident, there's no reason to ruin a whole heap of good meat. Just, you still want to know your barbecue because you still have to know all the vent settings and everything, but you can aid that process by having a controller. That might skip some of that learning process.
Yeah. Honestly, take a weekend, get a carton of beer. 3 mid-strengths, and just start on a Saturday morning, and just put nothing in it. Just let it go. It doesn't matter. Get a probe set. You can get them on the internet. You can get them at barbecue shops. So, and it'll track on your phone, and you can see where your temperatures are going every time you play with your vents, whatever. Just spend that quality time. Again, like your wife. Spend the quality time with her, and she'll be amazing.
Alrighty, do just throw your hands in the air if you do have any questions for our pitmasters here. So, right behind me, excellent.
I'm just wondering what's a good couple of cuts of meat you could use for just smoking for 2 to 4 people, having over for dinner.
Depends on your price range, really. So you look at your bigger cuts. So when you come to these events and whatnot, you'll find that most of them are cooking bigger cuts of meat, like a brisket, pork butts. They're the cheapest way of feeding a lot of people, but it's also, if you're doing a few people, you've got options depending on your budget. So cheaper side of things, you might go pork's still cheap, even though it's coming up in price. On the more expensive side of things, you can do lamb cutlets.
2 to 4 Joshes or 2 to 4 Chris and Matts? Right. So there are cuts that you can use that. So you can buy like half cuts or whatever you want to do. So, but understand that I'll cook. My wife hates barbecue, so she doesn't eat it. My son, who's 6'4", loves it and will eat enormous amounts because he's a 14-year-old at 6'4". Right. So I'll cook a whole brisket, and then we'll eat what we want to eat, and then you can freeze it. You can vac seal it. Like, buy a vac sealer, put it aside. It doesn't matter. You don't have to eat the whole thing at once, and then that becomes meals for later on, like the whole week. And I don't know if you like busy families, busy people. Like you can bring it out, and there's nothing wrong with reheating that later on if you do it the right way. Please don't use a microwave.
What is that right way, Matt?
So for me, I'll normally use like a hot water pan, and I'll bring it up to the temperature that I want, and just drop that whole vac seal bag in there and let it bring it up slowly and properly back to that temperature, and that works great. And even things like the jus that I'll get off my briskets, I'll freeze them in ice cube trays, and then I'll reheat those and use that again for gravies or injections or whatever. That's something that Chris taught me years ago, and it's an amazing way to do things. And like you don't have to, you can still cook that big cut. You just don't have to eat it all. Like you can freeze it. It'll come back. Trust me, it's amazing.
So I think the question you're looking for is time. How long have you got? So if you've got like an evening cook for a couple of people or a weekend. So a good example for me at home with my partner, we're not big on the heavy cuts anymore, like the big briskets and that kind of stuff. I've been going towards these days like a nice lean lamb cutlet or your backstrap sort of thing. Occasionally we'll go some really nice steaks as well. So for me, I've got a young 2-year-old. So for managing him and home duties as well, I'm a bit time poor. So I want something that's going to be quite quick and easy to light, cook, rest, and serve. So I have probably got an hour to 2 hours max to cook, say a dinner or something. And I can easily do, for a good example, I take a rump cap, which is a very cheap cut of beef. I take it to work every Friday for the boys, and I'll put it on in the morning, and by lunchtime, it's ready, rested, reverse sear it, and I'll feed up to 6 to 8 boys at work, like quite tradesmen. And that's another great way of feeding people quite cheap for about $30 roughly.
On that question of time and being time poor and how much available free time you've got to invest in that, one of the things I see a lot when I watch these cooking shows is these chefs will pull the meat out of the fridge and drop it on the bench, and they say, now let that raise to room temperature. How important is it that the meat is warmed to room temperature before it goes on the grill?
It's not.
It's a myth.
So for low and slow. So if we're doing low and slow, it's not. If you're doing hot and fast, yeah, that is important. Well, to me, anyway. So low and slow, you can take it straight from the fridge, you can put it in your smoker and it's okay. You can. There's nothing wrong with it. It might take a little bit longer because it's got to build up from that low temperature back up, but it's going to be less time than you're going to wait for it to get to room temperature sitting on the bench. So from my perspective, it's not that important for low and slow stuff. If you're doing hot and fast, if you've got a really nice Wagyu rib fillet, please let it go to room temperature. It'll blow your mind.
So has anyone cooked a steak straight away, put it hot on the grill or a barbecue, and you think it's cooked on the outside, it's starting to go pretty dark and crunchy, but you cut into it and she's raw in the middle. So the reason being is that the meat, if you bring it to room temperature, the chefs say, means that it's at room temperature. So when it cooks from the outside in, it's trying to, warm up from the inside out. But because it's so hot on the outside, it's actually burning the outside and actually blocking the pores and the heat and meat and stuff. It just doesn't get out. So bring it to room temperature for a hot grill means that you're getting a more consistent, even cook throughout. With low and slow, we're reverse searing it. So what we're doing is we're actually slowly breaking down the molecular breakup of the steak and the meat, and it slowly, we could say, renders out the fat and breaks down slowly these, the connective tissues. And so we take it to rare, for instance, and I'll bench rest it in foil. Then I'll get the barbecue or the grill hot with a open grill, as close to the coals as I can, or even directly on the coals, and then I'll sear it. You know what the searing does is it gives that charcoal flavor, and when you get the flare ups, the fat, it renders off that last bit of fat that's just sitting on the surface on the outside, and you get this beautiful charcoal flavor, bit of a burnt kind of not burnt, but a bit of a caramelization of the sugars that you've put on your rub or whatever, and it just get that beautiful flavor. Now you'll also notice that if you've had a proper reverse sear steak, that people will talk about coast to coast. So if you cut or slice the steak, you'll notice that's the consistent pink color the whole way through, which means that it's cooked completely all the way through, and you get that nice juicy flavor, and it's the most tender piece of steak you'll ever eat. I can't eat out anymore. There's probably one restaurant I've been to in Brisbane, which would compete to it, that I've been to, and that's about it, really.
The only other thing I can add to that, so we're talking about the temperatures. Don't go frozen. In terms of cold, frozen is a definite no-no. But in terms of the low and slow, so if you want to put cold stuff on, another thing to take on board is you're actually imparting more smoke from approximately when you put it on to when it gets to about 165 Fahrenheit. So if that started out colder, it's taking on smoke longer. So on different smokers, you can actually be over smoked or under smoked. You can use that to impart the amount of smoke that you want.
Yeah. And that's it. Like how cold it is. Sorry. You go.
No, just a question on the temperatures as well. So as far as the cooking, often they talk about 225 is like the target number. Is there a range, and does it have an impact on a brisket, say, for instance, if you go 225, 250, or?
Sorry. So we're at a low and slow festival, but you'll find that 90% of the competitors are not cooking low and slow. We appreciate our sleep. Yes, it does have a difference, but we use certain methods, tips and tricks and all that to counter the effects of that heat. We're not trying to cook at oven temperatures, but it's not far off. And yeah, so that's the main thing that I find with my cooking. If I keep a level range, if you're spiking going up and down, that meat is going to go seize and try and take in the outside temperature, try and suck that in and count it, vice versa. You're going to toughen up your meat. So if you've picked your temperature, what Chris said, learn where your pit wants to sit, stay there, and sorry, I'm not going to take.
But that 225 temperature you're talking about, Fahrenheit, people, if you want to look at what we're talking about, Fahrenheit, American, sorry guys. With that 225, you're looking for a brisket, for instance, you probably want to finish at about 205 to 210 sort of range. So anything lower than 225, it's actually not going to cook. You'll be there for about nearly 2 days trying to get it to temperature. So anything over 225, I cook at 275 to 300. That's where my pit likes to cook, and I adjust my time to that. The only thing with a longer cook is you have a longer window of being right on the money. So the hotter you cook, the smaller the window of getting that cooked right. So you just got to remember it's down to practice. So if you're going to cook hot and fast, you've got a very small window than going low and slow, than getting it at the right temperature.
It's more about stabilizing the temp over the fluctuations.
Stabilizing does help a lot, like Josh was saying. It definitely does help your cook, like a consistent cook. With keeping those higher temperatures, I find you're going to get a bit more heat. You're going to break down the sugars and the salts in the rubs, and you're going to get better caramelization and color sometimes. For instance, tonight I'm going to start slow, real low, real slow on my brisket. Sounds kind of that's really, really nice, doesn't it? And I want to get that smoke. I want to get for my presentation. I want to get this nice thick smoke ring. I want that to look, when you open that box, he says beautiful smoke ring. So I'm going to go real low, and I'm going to get that smoke penetrating for longer. So it just gets that nice color to it. And then later in the morning, when I've got other proteins that need to get in there, that need a bit hotter, I'll just kick it up a gear and I'll finish it off at a bit hotter. But it's not big subtle changes, but it's enough for me to get that nice big smoke ring and smoke flavor into that brisket. But that's just a personal preference that works for me, and something I like to present, so to speak.
So I cook slower. I cook low and slow. and I'll set it like that 250, and either way up and down a little bit because my pit likes 250. Up and down a little bit, it doesn't really matter. It's Fahrenheit. It's like 5 degrees Fahrenheit is 0 Celsius. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. You can have that little bit. What you don't want is that 40, 45, 50 degree swings. You want to make sure that it's sitting nice and comfortable. Like Chris said, find where your pit's comfortable. That's where you cook it at. And then understand, like we were talking before, understand like that feel of that meat. And then you'll get your times, and then everything will sort of start to flow together. Everything comes together with a little bit of practice and a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of treating your pit right.
Keep it simple. Honestly, simple, stupid is the best way to start barbecue. Don't go ravishing out, this injection and blah, blah, blah. You'll confuse yourself. Start simple, get a simple cut, simple rub, follow a basic cook, stick to it, and build off it. So when I first started years ago, there was no classes. There was nothing around. I had to import my ProQ from England. So it cost me a packet. But that's how I started. And I learned from American YouTube videos, making a lot of mistakes, spending a lot of money on briskets every weekend until I could cook one. I burnt a lot of ribs. I spent a lot of money refining my cook myself to improve how I cook. And now I can eat. Anyone these days can jump online, find a masterclass, and that will cut in half that learning curve, and you'll straight away understand the principles that took me months to learn. So you're very fortunate these days.
I learned from Chris.
All righty, folks.
He doesn't share anymore.
We got enough time for about one more question. If anyone wants to put their hand in the end, I'll run the mic out to you. We do have to let these fellas get back to their pits and start prepping their meats for tonight's competition. Excellent.
Can using too much wood like dry the meat out?
No. If you cook it too hot, yeah, it can. So again, it's that temperature control and understanding your pit. But the smoke from some wood, that won't dry it out at all. Overcooking it will dry it out.
Are you talking about smoke wood or fuel? So over smoking. So if anyone knows the principles of smoking, every protein stops accepting smoke after 145 degrees Fahrenheit. No matter what protein it is, the protein itself will stop accepting smoke. So effectively, after that point in temperature, you can put it in the oven inside the house and finish cooking it. It's still going to taste the same. So there's no need to actually keep loading on really expensive, pellets or plugs and that of smoke when the meat's not going to accept it. If you're going to try and force that smoke, there's also a science behind it with the things people call thin blue smoke, which means that when you've got the right temperature and the right amount of dryness in your fruit wood, you're going to produce the right chemicals released to be a good clean smoke. If it's a dirty, white, thick, pluming smoke, it's going to taste like that. If it's nice and clean and fairly visible, you're on the right track.
If you're sniffing the smoke and you go, that smells good, then that's the right kind of smoke. If you're sniffing it and you go, then that's the wrong kind of smoke.
That smells like a cheap cigarette in a nightclub.
You've been in too much, Benny.
Yeah. To add another thing, like I said before, though, just concentrate on if you're drying your meat out, look where it is drying out. There are methods of slowing down the cook in those areas by using a spritz or something. So those thinner areas are going to cook a lot quicker than the thicker areas. So more so than drying out the whole area.
Do we want to get into like surface evaporation and?
No,
I don't think so.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that's about the point in time. We need to wrap that up. Can we have a big round of applause, please, for Josh from Zed's Q, Chris from the Smokin' Hot Bros, and Matt from Smokin' Sappers Barbecue. Thank you very much. Just to give you an idea of what else is happening on the rest of the afternoon, we do have the live music over on the stage. There's the wings turn-in has just happened at 2. The steak turn-in is at 3 o'clock. And at 4:30 over on the music stage, we're going to be announcing the winners of the Steak Cook-Off Association competition, which has been happening all throughout today. So there's been 4 hand-ins for that. There's been anything on a stick, There's been a burger and, as I said, wings and steak. So 4:30 p.m. main stage. We're going to be handing out some trophies and some prizes. So I will see you there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We've just passed midday, and I'd like to introduce you to a very special guest we have here. So do come on down, do sit down. We're going to be having a chat with possibly the most well-known Australian outdoorsman. We've got Macca from What's Up Down Under. You've seen him on Saturday and Sunday mornings on the TV. You've seen him on 7 Mate.
Mostly 10, mate. There's a 7 camera getting around, so this won't make the news.
Is that why I'm getting confused?
No, it's
Oh.
all good.
Sorry about that. I'm going to get in trouble with Macca's publicist now. I do apologise for that. All right. So, Macca, what has brought you to the Brisbane BBQ Festival?
Mate, look, I just love the whole thing about outdoor cooking. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's barbecue or out in the bush next to a campfire. There's just something about the smell of smoke and meat cooking that always brings me around.
Mate, I know you love it because you must spend more time out in the bush doing your TV shows than you actually get to do at home. So give me a bit of a rundown on what you like to cook and how you like to cook it when you are out in the bush.
Mate, it kind of varies because different trips you do allow you to take different amounts of gear with you. So if you're doing like quite a remote trip, something like across the Simpson Desert, for instance, where carrying fuel and water becomes a whole lot more important than carrying a big steel barbecue with you. Obviously, you're cooking in different gear. So a trip like that, we'd rely on more alfoil and those sorts of things and doing what we call hobo packets, you know, where we throw a pork chop and a couple of sliced apples in and a bit of honey and wrap him up in the alfoil, throw it in the coals is a great dinner. But obviously when you can travel with a bit more gear, you can get a bit more high-tech.
Well, I was going to ask, if you're out in the Simpson Desert, do you actually need to light a fire or do you just throw the steak straight on the hood of the truck?
Mate, there'd be times I reckon you could throw them on the hood of the truck.
I reckon so.
You might get a bit of dirt more than pepper in the steak, that's all.
It's all just part of that native Australian flavouring, you know, get the real essence of Australia into your food.
That's what I say when you're cooking on the beach, mate. The crunch is all about attitude. It may be pepper and it may be sand.
Who knows? Just cut off a big slab and have a good bite.
Yeah, exactly right. Like everything else in life, mate. Just go hard at it and you'll enjoy it in the end.
Yeah, so there's lots of different sort of outdoor cooking apparatus. Do you have a particular favourite kind of outdoor oven or barbecue or something that you like to take with you?
Mate, I kind of always have a camp oven with me because the technology in those has moved a long way too. Your traditional camp ovens were made out of cast iron. They were quite heavy and quite fragile too. If you dropped them, they'd break. But these days, there's a whole range of them done in what they call spun steel, so they're a lot lighter and easier to carry. But you've got to be a little bit more careful when you cook because they're more reactive, of course, to the temperature. The same as smokers. I mean, I guess the technologies are all very similar. Like if you've got a thin-skinned smoker, and it'll react to the temperature changes of the ambient temperature outside more so than a big heavy smoker.
Absolutely, yeah. The thinner the metal, the more temperamental, basically. So, when you are looking at smokers, you really do want to look for like 6mm steel or even thicker.
Mate, and I think a big part of it is the cost as well. People look at it and say, look, that big heavy one's going to cost me so much more than this light one. I can only afford the light one, but like I say to people, always buy the best that your budget will allow you to buy and you will have the best to use.
Absolutely, mate, yeah. So what is your favourite protein to cook when you are out on the road? You did mention pork chops before. Is that your favourite?
Mate, it's actually not. My favourite is beef, but I will devour just about anything that used to walk around a paddock. I always say, if it had parents, it's my dinner. Yes, I do love a beef. You know, I love a beef roast in the camp oven. It's one of my favourites. And if I was looking for something to throw on the grill, I'd go for a steak as my preference. But I would also eat the rest of them quite happily.
Yeah, fantastic. I was out camping up at Land Cruiser Mountain Park there a few years ago, and I bought these beautiful steaks at Costco on the way through. And by the way, never stop at Costco on your way out camping because you will not fit anything else in your vehicle because you got to buy like bulk and everything. So
true story.
We had toilet paper stacked up to the roof. Like it was ridiculous. Anyway.
Well, you take that much protein, you're going to need that much toilet paper.
Yeah, because you can't just buy 2 steaks. You got to buy like a pack of 10. So
true story.
Which, you know, for me, that's not so bad. I could do 10 steaks in 2 days, no worries. But I get all the way out there, and I built this campfire. My family's there. We're sitting around. We're going, all right, so how are we going to cook these steaks? I hadn't thought about bringing anything to actually cook it on.
Oh, no.
So what I did, I took the lid off my camp oven, turned it upside down and dropped that straight onto the coals, and that gave me, admittedly it was a little bit concave, but it basically gave me a flat surface. That got nice and hot and then just seared those steaks off on the underside of the camp oven lid. Mate, they were some of the best steaks I've ever had. We'd just been to a steakhouse the week before. Each paid $45 for a plate of steak. And that steak that I cooked out in the bush on that camp oven lid with just some basic salt and pepper, that was better than what we just paid $45 a plate for in the steakhouse. It was ridiculous.
And I think a big part of that, and I talk about it quite often, it's not all about what you ate, it's the environment you ate it in. It's the people you ate it with and the experience that you had.
The ambiance.
Absolutely. And is there anything better than going through that little problem-solving scenario with the family going, we've got these great steaks, how are we going to cook them? So you've created an experience straight away, and everyone just looks forward to seeing what the end result is, and then sits around and enjoy it, and you've gone home with a memory and a story.
Exactly, yeah. And you get to have that experience by the open fire out in the Aussie bush. The sun's going down. You got not only the smell of the fire, but the smell of those steaks cooking. As you said, you're with your family, you're bonding, you're making memories, man. Life doesn't get much better than that.
No, it doesn't, mate. And I tell you, there has been a time or two when I've had to use the blade of a shovel to cook a feed. And it's not my preferred cooking surface, but we've all made the mistake of forgetting the cooking gear at the last minute. Funnily enough, I've never forgotten the beer when I went.
Of course not. What else are you going to marinate the meat with?
Oh, that's what it's all about, isn't it? We're taking it for the marinades.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So you just mentioned cooking on a shovel. You would not believe this. There is actually a barbecue competition over in the United States where you cook on a shovel.
What, did they forget their barbecues?
No. It's like a, I forget the exact name of it. It's like a pioneering or Wagoneer food festival where you can only cook what they cooked with what they used to cook with in the old wagon days when they were pushing west and all that sort of stuff. So you can only wear it. So it's almost like a Renaissance fair. They all dress in like 1800s sort of clothing, and you see people pull in these wooden wagons, and they all dig trenches and lay the coals, and they get all their camp ovens. And the interesting part is the ingredients, because they can only use ingredients that would have been available at that time.
Wow. So what sort of things are we talking about there?
So you're talking about like flatbread, for example, because they couldn't maintain like live yeast for baking. You're talking about, I've seen there was squirrel was one of the proteins.
Oh, we all love a good feed of squirrel.
Tastes like chicken.
Everything tastes like chicken, apparently.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah. And man, that was just absolutely fascinating. And the commitment of these people to that, it was just phenomenal. It was so good.
Mate, and I think that's a big part of cooking outside. There's a perception out there in people who don't enjoy cooking outside or don't participate that you really can't come up with the same qualities. And I think that's what I take on as my personal challenge when I cook outside, is to create something. I always say, I've got this line that I say, that when you take the first bite of whatever it is that you've served up, that you should make the same sort of sounds that you make when you have special mummy and daddy time. You know, it's like that.
I was wondering where that was going.
the involuntary sound, you know, that, oh, how good is this? You know, and it's amazing what you can create with little in the way of cooking equipment that is still good. And that should be your challenge every time you cook, particularly outside.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And also being able to cook it with a minimum amount of gear, because when you are out traveling, you don't want to be taking literally the kitchen sink with you. So being able to cook a really good meal, as I said, even as simply as just turning over the camp oven lid, mate, that's what it's all about.
And it comes down to your ingredients as well. You can't take everything that you had in your pantry at home. The pantry is a big thing. You're only taking a little box of stuff, so you've got to be pretty specific with what you put in it that's going to add the flavours to what you want, so it creates that meal that you really want to put out in front of people and have them enjoy.
Well, that is one of the basic tenements of barbecue as well, which is what we're here for this weekend. If you put anything other than salt and pepper on a piece of beef in Texas, you're in big trouble.
Is that right?
Absolutely,
one
yeah.
Of those big Texans will hunt you down for putting anything else on.
Pretty much, yeah.
So they reckon that the beef or the pork or whatever has got all the flavour that you need, they reckon?
Yeah, well, that is one of the principal tenets, is that you don't want to you don't want to overpower the flavour of the meat.
Well, and I guess a lot of people still do think that way, but if it was the case for everyone, we wouldn't have any fridge in the pantry either. Any sauce in the pantry. That was actually a question I always ask people: should you keep your sauce in your pantry or your fridge? And that's why I got confused. Then, what do you reckon, Ben? Where should it be?
My sauce goes in the fridge.
Yeah, there you go. And it's about 60%, because I ask everyone. There's about 60% of the population keep it in the fridge because the warning label says you should.
I just reckon, mate. I live on the Gold Coast. It's hot. It's humid. There's stuff growing everywhere, like at the best of times. I don't want that stuff growing in my sauce, so the sauce goes in the fridge.
And that's a fair call, but I live in the bush most of the time, and I'll have a 60 or an 80 litre fridge, and I want it cold beer. So the sauce, unfortunately, plays second fiddle and goes in the pantry box.
Well, you could use the old bushman's trick where you just like put the sauce in a sock and then dip the sock in the river and tie that from the tree, so the evaporative cooling would take care of that.
Yeah, you could do it, or perhaps the fish will just get a taste for tomato sauce and not want to bite your bait anymore.
They might do. Now, I did want to talk to you about your new project. So you're not only traveling around Australia shooting these amazing like outdoor living TV shows. Tell us about what the latest thing is you've been working on.
Oh, well, mate, it's also to do with cooking. So I've come up with a range of rubs, and the inspiration behind it was the travelling part, because again, you can't carry everything out of your pantry. So I used to buy rubs just for doing my smoking at home and carry them with me, but a lot of those flavours in the rubs that we're getting a hold of today in Australia are very American, low and slow type styles. I just wanted to bring something out that was a bit more Australian. Throw it on the roast when you throw it in the camp oven, or use it at home. So that sort of style of flavours that we've come up with.
Fantastic. And I did actually see them on the on your show on Sunday. My son and I watch it like every Sunday together. You've got like one for each protein as well, so there's quite the range.
Yeah, that's right, mate. There's a beef one there that's called Great Barrier Beef, not reef beef. There's Captain James Chook for the chicken. And there's That'll Do Pig for your pork, and Great Southern Lamb, which is, of course, for your lamb. So, but not just for, like, I actually just use it. I'll throw it in a spaghetti bolognese. Just, mate, it's a mix of spices, so you can use it for whatever you want to use it for. It's not just putting it on the meat and grilling.
Yeah, very exciting stuff, man. And given the names that you've given them, it doesn't get much more Australiana than that, does it?
Well, we kind of had to stick with that theme, didn't we? So they go on sale about mid-August. We're looking for distributors now, or retailers now. So if you keep your eye on my Facebook page, you'll see some more information on that.
Fantastic. So what's coming up for you in the future then, aside from that? What other things have you got? What other irons do you have in the fire?
Oh, mate, look, who knows? This is something that was never really meant to happen. It sort of fell into place. I was having a chat to Trev, who I used to buy my rubs off for barbecuing at home, and I was telling him how I wouldn't mind changing a couple of flavours up. And he said, oh, I'll knock something up a bit more specific for you. So this is something that happened without a great deal of planning. So who knows what comes next? But I'm already dabbling in a few other things that people have contacted me about. So let's just watch this space, because there could be a few more other Macca products coming out that you can use around the backyard, around the barbecue, or in your kitchen at home, or in the caravan while you're travelling.
Mate, I'm surprised that you're not running for politics with the way you just kind of answered around that question there. That was very skillfully done.
Oh, I thought so too. I sort of, a heap of words there, but they didn't say anything. You're right. I could be a politician. They do a bit of that, don't they?
Yeah. Macca for PM, people. Macca for PM.
Well, I don't know about that. There might be a few skeletons laying around in my closet that we don't need coming out when I become the Prime Minister.
No, I can't believe that for a second.
You're a good man, Ben.
All righty, mate. Let's wrap this up. Let's go get a couple of slices of brisket and some cold beers. How about you?
Top idea, mate. Good catching up with you always, and you keep up the good work.
Cheers, mate. You too.
See you later.
Hey folks, Ben from Smoking Hot Confessions here. It's day one at the Brisbane BBQ Festival. Can you believe that this is winter? Bretto, Flamin' Mongrels, how are the mongrels feeling?
Mate, pretty good. Yeah, we gave it a bit of a nudge last night, but we're okay today. We're ready for SCA.
Pulled up nicely then?
Yeah, a couple of Panadols and a can of Mother and we're good.
Good stuff. Now, SCA, Steak Cook-Off Association. Tell me about that.
So it's actually, we've done it once or twice, but we're pretty new into this SCA game, but we're going to give it a try today. So basically there's 4 categories today, anything on a stick, wings, burgers, and of course steak, which is the big one. And we're going to give all 4 a go.
Nice work, man, nice work. So when it comes to the SCA, what appeals to you about that competition?
It does give us something to do on the Saturday when our main hand-ins for the other competition is tomorrow, so it gives us something to do today. There's a bit of creativity involved, and that's probably where we're lacking a little bit. We're good at entering, competition boxes for ABA, and we just wanted to have a try at something a little bit creative this time.
Rightio, sounds good. So tell me about anything on a stick. What are you guys going to do for that?
No, I can't tell you.
Oh, okay. We're not live.
You're right. So we're going to do a key lime pie.
Ooh, wow. And then put that on a stick?
Anything on a stick.
Wow, nice. Cool. And, what I really want to know is what grill are you using for the SCA?
So we're going to use the Weber kettle. So we'll use an upside down kettle cone in the bottom and get some super hot temperature underneath our grill grates, of course, which are well known for getting some amazing grill lines on your steak. Of course, there is an appearance section that we need to try and cover, so we'll try and get some nice grill grate lines, get our temperatures up nice and hot. We're going to use a reverse sear method as well, so we'll reverse sear the steak before we sear it off at the end.
So with the kettle cone in the middle, then the steak goes out towards the edge of the Weber.
No, we'll put it directly over the heat. We're going to go directly over the heat, only for the grilling section. So we'll reverse sear it in another unit. So.
Oh, really? So you're actually going to use two different things?
Yeah, we'll probably use the offset. We'll probably use the offset to do the reversing section because it's easy to control the temperature. I don't want to have to set up something too major in the kettle to just for 40 minutes of smoking, So.
Oh, interesting. Cool. All right. And what type of fuel are you using for the SCA?
So we'll use we'll probably smoke it in the reverse section in the cooking section. We'll iron bark it, add some cherry wood. When it comes down to the sear section, it's 100% heat beads. We'll use probably lump charcoal straight in the. Oh, we might use beads. Haven't. As I say, we're still pretty new at this. So whether we use probably heat beads actually, they'll fit better in the kettle cone.
Yeah, oh yeah, because it's a very uniform shape, isn't it?
Yeah. So to get a whole bunch of those big lumps inside the kettle cone might not quite work the way we want it,
Could get a bit dicey, yeah, could get a bit tricky. So, man, when it does come to steak, there's a very particular way that the SCA wants you to cook it in terms of doneness. Is that the way you like to do your steaks at home?
So if I was to do a steak at home, I'd probably cook it a little bit under what SCA requires. So they're looking for medium. Which I think is at about 135, somewhere around there in Fahrenheit scale. But at home I'd probably take it to 125, probably not much higher than that. So
beautiful. Well, man, thanks for those tips and best of luck with the SCA and best of luck with the ABA tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I appreciate you just having a chat. Good on you. Ta.
Hey folks, it's Ben from Smoking Hot Confessions here on day 2 at the Brisbane BBQ Festival. I cannot believe that this is winter. Rod from the Charcoal Project, mate, how are you feeling?
Well, yeah, good, Ben. Really good. Pretty happy. So, been a great event.
It's been a good one, hasn't it?
It has. Been my first Brisbane event, so came along with Rusty to give these guys a hand, and yeah, we've done all right so far. So, pretty happy.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, but first of all, tell me, how did you get to be part of the Charcoal Project?
Just a ring-in sort of thing. That man offered me the opportunity and I thought and jumped at it. So yeah, learned a few new things and barbecue. It's pretty good. So yeah, happy.
It's one of I think 2 Jambos in the country. So if you get a chance to get on a team and have a play with one of them, you can't say no to that.
That's right. Not many people get to do it. So it's a great machine, awesome to use. Just foolproof. So it's good.
Yeah, good stuff. So today is day 2 of the festival, so it's ABA day. But yesterday was the SCA day, mate. Tell me how you went there.
Yeah, pretty good. I actually got 3rd in burger, so yeah, I was blown away. It's the first call up I've had. Got 8th in steak, so yeah, everyone was pretty happy with the way we went. So it's good.
Mate, so good. Tell me about that burger. What was on the burger?
It was just buttermilk chicken pork belly burger with a bit of caramelised onions and chipotle sauce and a bit of cheese, and that's all it was really. So.
Wow.
And it worked. So, yeah, the judges spoke. So, yeah, pretty happy.
Gotta be, mate. You gotta be.
Yep.
So tell me about what you used as your grill of choice for the SCA.
I was using the Mega Joe. It's just a WSM base with a kettle lid on it. And that's all it was, really. Just a bit of hot and fast, and it worked. And got the GA, go anywhere. We're running on the front of the Jambo and the old Brown. So it was all Weber cooks, all on Webers, the hot and fast. So, yeah, good.
Interesting. So why do you choose to go with the Go Anywhere and the Mega Joe?
Because we've got them. So they work, they're easy to use, and it's constant heat with them too. So yeah, it's really good.
And speaking of heat, what fuel do you like to use for your SCA competitions?
Heat beads.
Fancy that. Yeah. Just happened to be there in the background.
Yeah, they're a great supporter of us. So yeah, we support them and use their products. So it's great.
So which is your favourite one then? Is it the blue coconut shell bag? Is it the hard lump?
Yeah, I'm partial to the lump because I normally run an offset at home as well, and I normally run the lump in my smoky mount. So yeah, it's good. It's good gear.
Great stuff, mate.
Yeah.
So tell me, with the ABA coming up today then, what are the hand-ins you got to hand in today?
Well, Rusty's doing brisket, lamb and chicken, and I'm just doing pork ribs today. So yeah, that's something I'm trying to work on and get down pat. So Rusty can do everything else. He's got that under control. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so what cut of ribs do you like to do? St. Louis,
Yeah, I
baby
prefer
back?
the St. Louis. I have troubles getting them, so most of the time I am using baby backs. But yeah, either cut. I'm happy with either cut. So yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, look, mate, thanks very much for your time. I realise that you've got to get ready for your hand in.
Yep.
And the OH&S lady's about to come give me a serve to get my truck out of this
Okay.
out of this venue. So I got to go too. Thank you very much for your
worries.
time.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you.
Hey folks, it's Ben from Smoking Hot Confessions here at day 2 of the Brisbane BBQ Festival. I cannot believe this is the middle of winter. It is absolutely ripping here this weekend. And with me, I've got James from Pits and Giggles here. We're going to talk SCA in a minute, but first of all, mate, how's this for a Brisbane winter?
Yeah, it's great. It's nice, a bit cool in the morning, but really good during the day.
Yeah, the temperature dropped off about 4 p.m. yesterday, didn't it? Just the chill came up real quick.
Yeah, it cooled down quite a bit as soon as the sun went down. I think got down to about 6 overnight, which for Queensland means cold. For everyone else, maybe not.
Yeah. When I had to go pull my hoodie on, I was like, this isn't fair. This is Queensland. I'm not supposed to have long sleeves on.
Yeah, so all of us mostly just walking around wearing shorts even at night.
Yeah. Gotta love it, mate. Gotta love it. So listen, how many years have you been coming to the Brisbane BBQ Festival now?
This is our 3rd year we've been competing here. Brisbane 2 years ago was our first competition. So they were sort of amateurs then and figuring out what to do.
Yeah, right. And so for the first time this year, they've included an SCA competition. Now, that was yesterday. You guys really nailed it. Tell us about how you did.
Yeah, we went pretty well. So SCA is a lot more flexible than ABA is. So we've sort of done a few things a bit out of the ordinary. So I was in charge of the burgers, and what I've made is a fish and crab burger inside some Chinese bao buns.
Oh, wow.
So we actually used a Weber Summit for those with the wok and the steamer in it. So it's a $2,500 steamer. But they turned up really nicely, and I think the judges agreed, so that was really good.
Awesome, man, awesome. And you did it well in a couple of other categories as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so we also did anything on a stick. We did some jalapeno poppers on a stick, which went reasonably well. We came 5th there. And we also came 3rd in wings, which were fairly traditional kind of buffalo spicy wing, but they went down really well as well.
Mate, I do love a good buffalo wing.
Doesn't everyone?
Yeah. So when it comes to SCA, what's your favourite grill to use for that?
It depends a lot on what we're cooking. So some things work really well on a kettle for smaller things. Obviously, the bao buns we did a steamer. So there's a few different barbecues depending exactly what it is we're cooking.
But Weber all the way?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, and when it comes to fuel, what kind of fuels do you like to use?
So we're using lump charcoal from Spinifex, which is fairly local, which is from northern New South Wales. So it gets quite hot, and it's really good to cook with.
Right, very good. Hardwood lump, love it. Great stuff. So we've got the ABA coming up today. How are you feeling about your hand-ins for that?
Feeling fairly confident. So the first one up is chicken, doing very similar to the wings but thighs. Then sort of roll on into lamb, brisket, which oddly isn't last like usual, and then pork ribs. So the lamb we've actually done a few different styles. So we've got some shanks, also some lamb ribs, and also a rack of cutlets. So we're going to cook all of those up and then judge which ones are the best to go in the box.
Ooh, so what time's that happening?
The first one is in about half an hour at 11 a.m. is the chicken, and then lamb at 12, brisket at 1, and pork ribs at 2.
So I'll be back around 5 to 12.
Yeah. You want some leftovers?
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, I'm good like that.
Yes.
So anyway, man, best of luck for the rest of the competition. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you up on the podium, I hope.
Yeah, with any luck. Thanks, Ben.
Cheers.
Hi, this is Ronnie Killen from Killen's Barbecue, and this is Smoking Hot Confessions.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing this afternoon at the Brisbane BBQ Festival? Not a bad way to spend a Sunday, am I right? So my name is Ben. I'm from Smoking Hot Confessions. If you're looking for a website that's got recipes, tips, how-tos, Australia's premier barbecue podcast, do check that out, smokinghotconfessions.com, and Smoking Hot Confessions across all the different social media platforms. And I'm not going to take offense to the gentleman over there with the sunglasses and long hair for buying a t-shirt from me yesterday and then not wearing it today. I'm not going to take that personally. So, some of you who I recognize your faces from earlier today, I did a beef rib demonstration. And I cooked them through the night last night, sliced them up, served them up this morning. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to break down basically all the different bits and pieces and tools and gadgets and things that I use to do that. And I'm going to explain what each one does and why it helps me, how it helps me to make better barbecue. Naturally, if you're going to get into barbecue, you're going to need a barbecue. Really delicious barbecue should be done with wood-fired products. So that might be charcoal, that might be lump charcoal, it might be briquettes, it might even be pellets. And so it's that delicious flavor of wood that makes the smoked food so good. It's very primal, it's very traditional for us, and every time we smell it, we get hungry. That's why anytime you light the barbecue at home, the next thing you know, your neighbor's sticking their head over the fence. So you're going to need to start with a barbecue, and I really strongly recommend a charcoal barbecue. Now, this type of barbecue that I've got here is called a PK Grill. That's the brand, and the model is the PK 360. So I love this for many, many reasons. So first of all, I live on the Gold Coast. I live in an old Queenslander house, wood-framed, wood-panelled, wood deck. This particular charcoal grill, the way that it's built, there's no way on the bottom for any little charcoal embers or anything to fall out the bottom. So I'm not worried about it being on my wooden deck. My wife likes it because it's, as far as barbecues go, it's a reasonably attractive unit. So she actually lets me put it out on the front deck. So Sunday afternoons, if I'm not working, I actually get to sit with a beer and flip some burgers and look out over Surfers Paradise. It's beautiful. All my other barbecues, I've got literally 17 other barbecues. They're all hidden down the backyard and under the house. So this is the only one that's allowed to come out and play on a regular basis. The way that the vents are set up on this one is particularly useful, especially if you're going to move from grilling into some low and slow type stuff. So if you're going to be using it for grilling, you're going to just open both those bottom vents up, open up both the top vents, if you're even going to have the lid closed. You'd fill up the bottom of it with charcoal, light it up, wait until the charcoal is ashed over. Depending on the type of fuel, can take anywhere from sort of 10, 15 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on how you do that. And the more you do it, of course, you're going to find little tricks and things that are going to work with your barbecue and your fuel to get that happening faster. This particular one is great for moving into low and slow, particularly if you're not trying to feed 15 people. So if you've got a family of 4, family of 5, this unit is great. I put the charcoal onto about the far quarter of the grill space there, which leaves me 3/4 to fill with meat for some low and slow. So I can get a reasonable sized brisket on there. Last night I had 3-bone beef rib packs on there, and a few weeks ago I had 4 on there, and I've done all sorts of different things on there as well. And it's just so adaptable and flexible, and it's simply a matter of keeping that vent open because you want that air coming directly in under that charcoal, closing that vent, opening this top vent, and closing that bottom vent. And what you're doing is you're manipulating the airflow. Exactly. You're forcing the air only in under the charcoal, only feeding that oxygen to that charcoal. The hot air and the smoke has nowhere to go except across the meat and back out through the exhaust up there. So it's a perfect setup for that. So you've got to kick things off with a decent grill, with a decent barbecue. Can't go wrong with a PK grill. The next thing, you can see how much I love these. I'm not actually going to pass these around because you're going to get filthy. These are special heat-treated gloves, and you can literally, with these on, you can actually grab lit bits of charcoal with your hand and move it around inside the grill. Okay? Naturally, you don't really want to do that too often, but you're not going to burn yourself. And you can see after 5 years of use, my dog had a go at that thumb because I forgot to put the gloves away one day. But aside from that, there's no wear and tear after 5 years of handling hot coals. Very useful. These are called Beast Armor. They're from a group online called Grill Beast. Great gear. They got great stuff. So that's important for handling charcoal, lit or unlit, because you don't want to have black hands and then be trying to play with your food as well and have to run and wash your hands and come back again. It speeds up the whole process. So handle lit or unlit charcoal with a decent set of heat-proof gloves. Next, this may sound pretty rudimentary. 2 different sets of tongs. I hate going to people's houses when they're cooking a barbecue and they get the tongs and they move the charcoal around And then they grab the steak and put that on. I'm like, how about you let me cook my steak? That one's yours. You let me cook mine. Make sure you got 2 sets of tongs. You can just use cooking tongs for moving the charcoal around, but a decent heavy-duty set is going to be a lot more better. That's terrible. It's going to be a lot better for really gripping the larger chunks of charcoal and moving them around. And then, of course, you keep your clean set for working with your food. It is important to even have a third set, one for cooked food, one for raw food, if you are doing multiple things on the grill at one time, because you don't want to mix them up. So a couple of sets of tongs are really important. I think that's all pretty rudimentary so far. We're all good with that? Any questions about the grill before I move on? Yeah, good question. So he's asking me how much charcoal would I use for low and slow. So basically what I want is just enough charcoal to sit directly above that grill. And you want to sort of keep it stacked up. So you can come and have a bit of a look at when we're done. You can come and climb all over this grill. This is burnt out from last night. And I've dragged it back and forth across the paddock for these demonstrations. So the charcoal is a little bit disturbed there, but you'll get the basic idea. The charcoal is all pushed up to one end and stacked up almost right underneath the cooking grill. How's it going cleaning? Very good question. These particular PK grills are very easy to clean. A lot of people think that, charcoal's dirty. It can be a little bit dirty, but it's all natural and it's not going to explode. You hear these horror stories about people, getting a grease fire in their gas barbecue and then the bottle explodes and it all ends poorly. So that is a trade-off. This particular model is incredibly easy because it's a modular design. So this is a mechless or hingeless grill. So it's a tongue and groove type setup. So that just pulls off. Pop that down on the ground. These side handles here, they have these 3 round knobs under there. They just slide off, put them away. There's that one knob there. And then if you want to, you can just pick it up and drop it out. Or there is actually a bung down in the bottom of it at the back. And there's hooks on the back. You can hang a bucket underneath and sort of scoop all the muck out into a bucket. So this particular grill is very easy to take care of. Very easy. And because it's all hand molded aluminium, it's never going to rust. So you don't need to, I took the pressure cleaner to this just a few weeks ago. So you don't need to worry about that at all. It's a great bit of gear. Any other questions about the grill? No? Happy? Yeah? That's the part where you go, yeah! All right, let's move on. Woo! Okay. So, taste time. Meat loves salt. Salt loves meat. I stole that from Adrian Richardson. But great seasoning is fantastic. So on the beef ribs this morning, I used these 2. So I'm going to bring these out to you again. And if you'd like a taste, just put your hand up and I'll come around and give you a taste. The first one is the ancho espresso. So that is a great one with a large umami flavor packed in there, the 5th flavor. And that comes from the anchovies that's in there with the coffee powder. Okay, ancho espresso. No, I'm kidding. There's no anchovies in there. So many people just went, oh, it's ancho chili. So it's chili and espresso coffee grinds. It's actually delicious. Really, really good. This one is Lane's brisket rub. Now, Lane's is a major sponsor of this event today. They are just down there on the left. Regardless of that, this is still what I go to. Okay? This is a real sort of Texan style. It's salt, pepper, and garlic. A few other little things, maybe some onion, but that's essentially it. Those are the three tenets. So, anyone want to have a taste? Or you come get some later? I'm just going to pass them around. How about that? There you go. So those are really good, really delicious, and they're actually designed by a guy in the United States who is he's a professional barbecue competitor, and he's developed these lines of rubs. And so each rub is specifically designed from ingredients to complement that particular cut of meat. My personal favorite, if you like spicy chicken wings, go pick up some of his lime and chili seasoning and a bit of his white sauce and find some buffalo sauce. Hit them with the spice rub on the grill, toss them through the orange buffalo sauce, and then drizzle the Lane's white sauce over the top. Happy days. So we've got our grill, we've got our charcoal, we've spiced our meat. It's time to get to the cooking. Don't underestimate plastic gloves. Latex gloves, very important stuff. Great for food safety and keeps your hands clean for doing different stuff throughout the cooking process. You don't have to stop and wash your hands every 3 minutes where you go and do something else. Now, quick show of hands, who's overcooked some meat before? Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? It is heartbreaking, particularly with brisket prices now that low and slow barbecues become popular. Someone told me he got hit with $45 a kilo for brisket a little while ago. Whew! Who can remember when that was the giveaway food from the butcher? Yeah, yeah. Now it's $45 a kilo. Yikes! But delicious. There are a couple of tools here that I'm going to show you. A couple of gadgets that are going to help sort of resolve that issue for you. The first one's very cost effective. This is called an Inkbird, and it's a Bluetooth multi-probe thermometer. So this particular model, they come in 2, 4, or 6 probes. The probes click into the side, and you've got some probes that you will, depending on which smoker you're using and how it's set up. In this particular one, I just put one on to measure the grill temp. So it comes with a little clip, and you put the clip in there, slide the probe there, the wire out through the vent, because remember, this is the vent that we're leaving open. Slide the wire out through the vent into the unit, and it talks to your phone. So there's an app for it, and it tells you, yeah, it's pretty good. But wait, I got more stuff. And you can set alarms on it. So if the fire drops to a certain temperature, if it spikes, if it gets too high, there's multiple other probes you can put in there. So if you're cooking a couple of different bits of meat on there, you stick those probes in the meat, and then you set those alarms on the meats, and it'll tell you when they're done. The only drawback, okay, the great bit is that it's Bluetooth. The drawback is that it's Bluetooth. So it's very convenient and it's very cost effective. If you've got 6 walls between where you are and where you're cooking, it's going to drop out. So I think that's about $50, $60. So that's really good stuff. That's a really good start. Moving up from that is this little guy here. Not nearly as visually attractive as this guy. This is called a fireboard, and again, it's 6 probes. Same deal. Put one on the grill to tell me the temperature on the grill. The other 5 I can use for different cuts of meat. So you see some of these giant trailer smokers here, they might have 5, 6, 8 briskets in there, and they put the probes in the different briskets in the different places. This guy works on Wi-Fi. So if you're at home and it connects to your Wi-Fi, you can access it from anywhere in the world. So you check into your app. Oh, yep. You could be down at Bunnings getting more charcoal because you've forgotten to buy charcoal, and it'll tell you, and you can set alarms for fireplaces and whatnot, for fire temperatures and meat temperatures. So this guy here is exactly what I used last night. So I brought my truck in, laid my swag out in the back of the truck, set up the beef ribs in there, 1 probe on the grill, 1 probe in one of the racks of beef ribs. I set the alarms. I've got a little Telstra plug-in mobile Wi-Fi box. That talks to that. This talks to the internet, and I could check it from my phone, and I set the alarms on my phone. So I still managed to get 9 hours sleep last night, despite the fact that I was cooking all night through a barbecue festival. I shouldn't tell you that because I know some of you were here this morning. You're like, ooh, wow, you've been cooking all night. Not so much. I got up 3 times through the night just to top up the fire, wrap the meats at a certain stage, that sort of thing. And the next level up after that is my smartwatch talks to my phone. And so this guy will actually send me an SMS. It'll send me a message, a text message, and then that vibrates on my arm. So if I sleep through the beeping alarm on the phone, I then get vibrations on my wrist telling me to get up and go check the fire. So that's a good couple $100, and in my opinion, that's worth every cent. If you've got a kettle-style barbecue or a bullet-style barbecue, there is a fan adapter attachment possible as well. So you can actually pop a fan in through the vents in the bottom of those round type smokers, and this guy will actually control the airflow into the smoker. So you can set it exactly to the temperature, and it'll control the fan to keep it at that constant temperature. So that's the next level for that guy. Now this guy is what we call an instant read thermometer. This particular one is a Thermopen, and this one is the latest model. It's the IR, the infrared. What that means is if you were here yesterday, you would have been here for the State Cook-Off Association championships. You would have seen them with very different looking grills on the top there. Those are called grill grates. And the secret to cooking those perfect looking steaks with the perfect lines in them is those grill grates. And you want to get them to about 500 to 550 degrees Fahrenheit. And I do apologize because I do speak Fahrenheit. I was taught barbecue by my mother-in-law who's American, so I speak Fahrenheit. Anyway, so this guy here has an infrared thermosensor in the bottom there. Point it at the grill. It'll tell you how hot it is. You can adjust the vents accordingly. The other end is the probe, and it's almost instant. It's within 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It'll give you an exact read of the temperature of the meat. So if you're aiming for rare, medium, all that sort of stuff, that's how you can do that, and how you can get that a bit more accurate rather than, oh yeah, that's about 1 beer's worth of time, that's about 2 beers worth of time. It just gets a little bit more accurate than how fast you can drink your beers. So again, that's up around the $200 mark. ThermaPen, THERMA, pen in one word, ThermaPen. Highly, highly recommended. Great bit of gear, and you will see every team here has one of them because they are that good. They are the go-to. Good with the gadgets. Any questions about the gadgets? Nope. Yes. Fireboard. 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 I love that guy. Ultra reliable. Runs on batteries or on mains. So you can set that up that way too. All right. So we've got our barbecue, we've got our charcoal, we've controlled it all, we've lit it, we're watching the temperatures. We've reached a point where the meat has hit the stall. So if you're here this morning for the beef rib demo, I was talking a little bit about the stall. It hits at about 160 degrees, and it then at Fahrenheit. Please don't cook your meat to 160 degrees Celsius. You're going to have a bad day. 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it's called the stall because for the longest period, the meat won't rise in temperature. And there's a whole bunch of different scientific explanations for that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. One of the ways that you can get around that to shorten that period, the meat will eventually rise to the 200 Fahrenheit, sort of 195 to 205 sort of point you're looking for. The meat will eventually get there, but there's a couple of things that you can do to sort of shorten that curve, and one of them is to wrap the meat at about the 160 Fahrenheit point, which is the alarm that I set on this guy this morning. So at about 3 o'clock this morning, this went off telling me the meat was at 160. So I just got up, staggered outside, wrapped up the meat, put it back on the smoker, and went back into my truck and went back to sleep. Depending on what you're cooking, there's two types of things that you can wrap it in. The first one is, we call it peach paper, mostly because of the color. I don't think it's actually made of peach trees. And it's a type of paper, so it's breathable. So are we familiar with the term bark? Yes? A couple of people saying yes? Okay. The bark is that kind of crunchy exterior shell that you get on these low and slow meats to sort of contrast with the nice, soft, juicy, beautiful, creamy interiors. Now, a lot of people will wrap in foil, and I'll give you the hot tip right now. If you are going to cook in foil, make the trip to Costco and go get some of this. This is the Costco commercial grade foil, and you'll just feel the thickness on that. You just sort of pass these little bits around. This is a game changer if you're into barbecue. If you're just trying to do low and slow barbecue with regular supermarket alfoil, you're going to have a horrible time because all those crunchy bark edges, or if any bones start poking out, you're going to be shredding that foil and losing all the delicious meat juices that are coming out of your meat. So there's the foil. One catch with foil is not to wrap it too tightly because you'll end up trapping too much moisture in there, and then all your delicious crunchy bark can go soft. So one way I get around that is I use the paper. And you can wrap your meat in the paper and then pop it in the tray so that if any moisture, any of the jus does escape from the paper, you still catch it in the tray. And after you've sliced or pulled your meat, pour the juices back over the top. So that's just a quick wrap up on the different papers there for wrapping. And depending on what you're cooking, it will govern how long you'll keep it wrapped for. So if it's pork ribs, anyone had a crack at pork ribs at home? Yeah, did you try 3, 2, 1? No? Yeah, how'd it go? Bit too long. Yeah. That's because the 3, 2, 1 method that you'll see on YouTube and all that sort of stuff, that's an American approach to doing it, and it works for them because their pigs are processed later in life, so the pigs are physically bigger, And the butchers also cut the ribs differently. The butchers cut it so that there's more of the belly meat left on the ribs. So that's why 321 works over there. Over here, our ribs are always smaller because our pigs are processed a lot younger in their lives. And our butchers are trained to preserve as much belly meat as possible because over here in Australia, the belly has always been higher in demand than the ribs. So if you're going to try something like 321, three is on the smoker uncovered, 2 hours wrapped, 1 hour uncovered again. So if you're trying it here in Australia, you're going to have to experiment a little bit. I'd start with 2 1/2. Okay, cut that down a bit, cut those stages down and see how you go. When I was first getting into this, I went to Coles and I bought some ribs from Coles. Have you seen Coles ribs? They're so shiny, aren't they? You can see the bones coming through the top. You don't want to see bones. That's why we call them shiners, because they're shiny. The bones are shiny. You just want to see a nice layer of meat across the top. So I bought these ribs. I brought them home to my wife. I said, honey, I realize you're feeling a bit homesick. I'm going to make you pork ribs. What I should have said was I'm going to make you boot leather. Because after trying to 3-2-1 these tiny little Coles ribs, it was just, whoo, that was something else. You'll have to find either a low and slow specialist butcher or strike up a relationship with your butcher and then ask them and explain how you want it cut. No one likes it when someone comes in and tells them how to do their job. So build that relationship first. Don't just come in cold off the street and go, hey, you're cutting it wrong. Cut it this way, because you won't get a good response. Yeah. So baby backs are kind of further back on the rack. They're the ones with the big curve in them. And as the rib cage comes around, the ribs kind of flatten out and flatten out and flatten out. So a lot of the teams here prefer the St. Louis cuts because the bones are almost perfectly straight and they just line up. They present better in the box. So yeah, you're looking for up around Brisbane up here. Like, are you local to Brisbane? Yep. So you want to look for meat at Billy's. You want to look for prime cuts. You want to look for low and slow in I think they're Tingalpa. So there are, like, especially up here, you're lucky up here in Brisbane, you got loads of specialist low and slow style butchers. So hit them up, or as I said, strike up a relationship with your butcher, build that relationship, and then ask them very politely, would you mind cutting it this way for me? Do expect that you will pay a little bit more because they are sacrificing that belly that is otherwise very profitable for them. They will be sacrificing that belly to provide you the ribs that you're after. So you will pay a little bit more for them. Yeah? All right, who likes pretty stuff? Yeah? Yay! Woo! Okay. This guy here. I love this guy. This is my handmade Macca leather knife rolls. Macca's the guy down in Tasmania that puts them together. Hey, yeah, sure, man. Come on through. No worries. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Rob. He cooks on Jolene down here from Smoking Hot and Saucy. Not only is that man feeding literally thousands of people today off his giant smoker, he's actually competing yesterday and competing today as well. So he's actually a legend of the barbecue scene. That's why I was giving him a bit of a razz there. He's driven all the way up from Newcastle in a 8-ton truck with that thing on a crane. It needs a crane to pick it up and drop it in. It's really impressive. Really, really good stuff. Biggest smoker in Australia. Anyway, Macca leather knife roll. Good knives are really important. It's always the dull knife that's going to cut you. I was just cutting a tomato on Wednesday night, and I was using my wife's knives out of the kitchen drawer and just took a giant chunk out. So you need somewhere nice to keep them. So the Macca knife roll, he custom makes them. He'll put as many pockets in it as you want. You can come check out the quality of work on it later on. He laser etches the logos and things on them. A lot of teams around here have them. They're just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So the first thing I want to show you out of here, the nice shiny thing. The girls are like, oh, it's not nice and shiny. It's just tools. Is a good sharpener or a steel. You want to put that edge back on the knife. It's technically not going to sharpen the knife. It's just going to refine the edge on there. This particular one is FDIC brand, made in Germany. Very nice bit of gear. You will see cheaper ones that are quite rugged, quite rough on the edge. You want that to be quite you will feel it, but you still want it to be nice and smooth. You don't want to be like feeling your knife drag across it, going across it. So, and let's pick one. All right, you will see people stand here for like 15 minutes. Okay, they have OCD. You only need to do maybe half a dozen, and then just finish off the last couple. Just watch your angle on it, get your angle nice, and you really shouldn't be bringing it back towards yourself, but I really am terrible trying to do it with my left hand, so I'm always very careful. Bring it back in that way, and just watch that angle, make sure that's nice. You don't need to do it 25 times, half a dozen times quick, and then just one or two nice slow ones to finish it off. A steel, very important. Next, if you're cooking large cuts, briskets and whatnot, you want a brisket knife. That is about as nice as they come. That's made by a guy called Cutthroat down in Melbourne. He hand makes them all, and he will make them to specification. So this particular one is a Kanto knife. It's got a Japanese Kanto samurai-inspired tip on it, and it's perfectly weighted, beautiful ergonomic handle. He'll custom make any kind of handle you want on it, and that is to. You don't want it serrated because of that bark. It's gonna the serrated edge will dig into the bark and rip the bark off the brisket. So you want a nice big long sharp brisket knife like that, and just very gently take it through. It's very nice there. Always have a good kitchen utility knife. That's always handy. Flexible bladed boning knife is good. This one is a Geyser. Very handy. You would have seen me in the beef ribs this morning. Because the blade is flexible, I was able to slide it down between the bone and the membrane across the back and just sort of lever that through, leverage that out. Again, these are ultra sharp. You want to keep that, like find one with a reasonable amount of flex, but not too much, because you want to be able to leverage it. And that's very handy. And then the last one I like to keep is just a little paring knife. It's great for little bits of detail work to get in there and just sort of trim things up nice and neat. Any questions about knives? No? A few quick tips about knife care. The story is that dishwashers are bad for knives. The acids in the detergents sort of eat the edge off the blade. I don't know about that. But what I will tell you is that storing them in a drawer is the fastest way to dull the edges off them. They clash against each other. Jump online, grab yourselves a couple of little magnetic strips, mount them on the wall, and stick them on the wall. That'll be a lot better. All right. Nearly there. Nearly finished. Then you can all come up and have a look at what I got up here. We've got our barbecue, we've got our charcoal, we've lit it up, we've monitored it, we've wrapped the meats, we've used our knives for trimming it up and getting it all ready. You need to have a decent cutting board. Mine's a very hard-working cutting board. It's time for a sand and a polish again. A sand and an oil. But a really good quality cutting board is going to save you. And if you think it's too big, it's probably not big enough. The bigger the cutting board, the better, particularly for these larger cuts of meat, because you end up with juices and things pouring over. And you will actually find some that will have a groove around there and then a notch in the end, so you can slide a little pan or something in underneath, and all the juices are going to come out of your meat. You're going to catch them in the pan underneath and then pour them back over the top. Absolutely fantastic. If you do go to kitchenware shops, you will get packs that are the boards are different colors, and therefore, like commercial kitchens, you can use them for different meats. Different colors are for different meats. So if you're really into your food safety and that sort of stuff at home, that's an option for you as well. How often do you get left with leftovers? Some people are saying, what are leftovers? All right. This is probably the most mundane thing I'm going to show you. This is just a little vacuum seal. I'm guessing probably everyone's seen one of these, knows what these are. They come with their own special little plastic bags. They suck the air out of it and then heat seal across the top. The reason that your food gets freezer burnt in the freezer is because there's too much air in there. The vacuum seal bag will suck all the air out of there, wrap the plastic to it, it keeps all the juices in there, and it stops it getting freezer burnt. So if you've got something that you've cooked in there, and let's face it, if we're buying brisket, we're spending a lot of money, we're spending a lot more time on it, we don't want to get it freezer burnt and then look at it and go, throw it away. So this guy gets a hell of a workout at my house, the vacuum sealer. Anything we do, even if I'm trimming a brisket, I'll keep all the trimmings, and I'll put the trimmings in, and then when I've got enough, I'll run it through the mincer and we make hamburgers. So the vacuum sealer is great, and it also means that you'll have a much better way of reheating your barbecue. The worst way to reheat brisket is to throw it in a microwave. It's going to come out rubber. It's the microwave's just going to ruin it. So if you got it in a vacuum seal bag, just get a saucepan, get some cold water out of the tap, fill it up, put the whole vacuum seal bag in the saucepan, and just gently bring it up to a boil. And by the time the water's rolling, that meat will have gently risen inside that bag, and so you will have hit that temperature you want, so it's nice and hot and fresh again, but you haven't lost any of the moisture. So it's going to taste 98% as good as the day you cooked it 6 months later when you pull it out and you defrost it. So that's a great tip right there. It's probably the most boring though. It's not sharp and shiny. It's not different colors. It's not techno. But yeah, so that's it. This is the basic range of toys that I use when I'm cooking barbecue, when I travel around to these different food festivals. And this guy, would you believe it or not, made it through customs to America and back. So that was pretty good, getting animal products in and then getting them back out again. So feel free to come on up. We're going to wrap it up now. Come on up, ask me some questions, ask whatever you like. Pull things out, have a bit of a look at it. Do be very, very careful if you do want to have a look in this roll. I don't mind if you do, but please do be careful. I'm just going to ask the kids don't have a look in here. But adults, you're welcome to come and have a bit of a look at them if you like. And yeah, come on up. Let's have a chat.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
Welcome to Brisbane BBQ Festival Awards ceremony. And we're going to introduce Julian now, the man who's put it all together for us. He's put on the weekend for us to come and play with. So Julian, please come up on stage and say a few words to us. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Event promoter, Julian De Souza.
Thanks, guys. That was some response. Hey, let me start by saying a big thank you to all of you for your support over the last couple of years while I've been learning about barbecue events and events in general. And I do thank those of you that have been supporting my events right from the beginning. These events wouldn't be possible without a lot of different people. First of all, a big thank you to my support staff. So we've got Summer from Somersault Marketing, who's been there right from the start of the Barbecue and Beer Roadshow. Thank you, Summer. Big round of applause for Summer, guys. And then a big thank you to the sponsors. Sun Pork, who have been helping us out with the last couple of events. Big thank you to Boss Barbecue for giving away a very generous prize and a great launch. Brett and Lane's Barbecue Australia, great rubs. A big thank you to them as well. And our beer partner this year was A&K Purveyors with a whole range of different beers to choose from. I think we had 15 beers altogether this year. We might increase that next year. The breweries involved with New England Brewery, the Flying Beck Cider, New Welder's Dog, Wayward Brewing, and Bridge Road Brewing. So a very big thank you to them for keeping all of us hydrated. In this. Absolutely delicious. I'll say a big thank you to Ben. Ben has been with us the last couple of years. He does a fantastic job, a great ambassador for barbecue in Australia, wins awards around the world now, that's right. Gets great content for his podcast at our event, shares, goes over and above what we can ask him. So can we have another round of applause? And a big thank you to the ABA, the sanctioning body for this this competition, to Demi, who's come up from Armidale, to Don, who's come up all the way from Canberra, and the lovely Rachel, who's going to come up on stage now and announce the winners.
All right, been a while since I've been up on stage. Got lots of paper and stuff. So I'll call top 10 and all the tie breaks. You're welcome. Then we'll go into third place, third, second, and first up on stage. Third place, you guys get 300 cash and a trophy. Second prize, you get 400 cash and a trophy. First place in each category gets 500 cash and a trophy that also fits a beer in it perfectly. Just ask Al from the Mongrels. All right, so straight into it. We've got Chicken, the Dirty Bird. So honourable mentions. In 10th place tied, you've got Brizzy Basters. You've also got Puff Puff Based. In 9th place, the Charcoal Project. In 8th place, the debatable Smoking Hot Bros. In 7th place, oh snap, Country Boys. Sponsored by Low and Slow Meat Coats and Galpa. You're welcome. 4th place, we've got some ties. So we go from 7th down to 4th. We've got Smoke and Daggers, Zed's Q, and Double Barrel Barbecue. Thanks,
Very
Adrian,
nice.
for turning up. Okay, so if third place could come on up, please. Roll and Smoke Barbecue. Chicken. All right, in second place for Chicken. I've got to be very careful when I'm saying certain names. Smoking Cods Barbecue. In first place for Chicken, hashtag nailed it, I think with a 297. Maybe I'm lying. I don't know. You guys will know soon. Bogan Barbecue. Good work, Scotty. Okay, Lamb. Honourable mentions. Tied in 10th. The Smoking Hot Bros. And Puff Puff Based. Going down to 9th, Smoke and Daggers. 8th, we've got Signature Smoke. Yeah, recovering from spinal surgery, you are welcome. In 7th place, Smoking Dog Barbecue. Tied in 5th, you have Bogan Barbecue and Charcoal Kings. And in 4th place, Smoky Days Barbecue. All right, can I please get up on stage? 3rd place, Country Boys Barbecue. In 2nd place, Primal Iron Barbecue. Ash, my phone timed out. I didn't just swear again. All good, all good, all good. We got this. All right, Lamb, first place. Roll and Smoke Barbecue. Okay, so we've got Leah from Lanes coming up to help out with the brisket category. Remember all those teams that brisket was the 3rd hand in for those teams that didn't understand? Yeah, we're good? Okay. Sorry, boys. All good. All right. Take your son. Bloody hell.
Have some respect.
All right, so in 9th place, because we've got a tie, we have Double Barrel Barbecue. Woo! And the Sappers, Smoking Sappers. Another tie, ABA, Tie Barbecue Alliance. Spare Team 1, aka Smoking Hot and Saucy. These boys surprised me with a late entry this morning. And you also have Brizzy Basters. In 6th place, the shortest guys in barbecue, Barbecue Inc. Lol, they're giants. In 5th place, Signature Smoke. In 4th place, Charcoal Kings. Okay. Can I please get up? In 3rd place, brisket category, sponsored by Lane's Barbecue Australia, Zed's Q. In second place, Primal Iron Barbecue. First place, brisket, sponsored by Lane's Barbecue Australia, with a handsome Blair up on stage. Swipe right on Tinder, ladies. First place, Smoke King Barbecue. And these guys wanted to go home. Get on up here. This is how you're meant to come up on stage, guys. Okay, so pork ribs, honourable mentions. In 10th place, the Flaming Mongrels! People's champion. Okay, in 8th place, tied, Smoking Cods and Smoking Hot and Saucy. In 7th place, we have the Charcoal Project. In 6th, Puff Puff Based. In 5th, Charcoal Kings. In 4th place, the Smoking Hot Bros. Okay, if I could have up here, please, on stage. I'm trying to look for them, but I cannot see them. 3rd place, Mikasu. In 2nd place for pork ribs, Roll and Smoke Barbecue. Hey, Ali and kids, if you're at home watching, I'm sure they're screaming right now at the phone. In 1st place for pork ribs, and I'm sick of hearing these people saying, oh, they're a really bad cook. Well, your 1st place, you jerks, Smoking Suppers! Okay. If I can grab Blair back up, because I was going to get... Blair's going to give the 500 cash to the rookie team. We had 3 rookie teams eligible. Huh? Oh, it's not Spare Team 1, no. All right, I forgot who it was, so I did write it down. So a trophy and $500 cash from Blair, repping for Lane's Barbecue Australia, and it goes to It's Good Barbecue. These guys were the first to hand in every category, standing there very patiently. So for RGC, we have $2,500 and a trophy, which I'm pretty sure could hold a beer, or go over to the Mongrels and they'll fashion something and make sure you can hold a beer. I haven't got there yet. I'm doing top 10. Calm down. Not my first rodeo. Got to throw the cash out first. So top 10 honourable mentions. In 10th place, Double Barrel Barbecue. In 9th place, we have Scotty from Bogan Barbecue. In 8th place, we've got Smoking Cods Barbecue. In 7th place, Puff Puff Based. In 6th, Smoking Suppers. In 5th place, Smoking Hot Bros. In 4th place, Country Boys Barbecue. In 3rd place, Primal Iron Barbecue. All right, I'll do the money thing again. Thanks, mongrels. So Kelly from Boss Barbecue, $2,500 and a trophy. RGC for the Brisbane BBQ Festival for 2019 is the Charcoal Kings.
Yeah.
Grand champion, Brisbane BBQ Fest 2019. He just winked at me like a creep. Damn it, Roll and Smoke Barbecue! There's a bit of man love happening down here as well. All right, round of applause for your grand champions!
And there you have it, family, the 2019 Brisbane BBQ Festival. Huge congrats go out to the Charcoal Kings and Roll and Smoke on their RGC and GC winnings. The points ladder is really heating up at the moment, and we're in the second half of the year, so it's only going to get more exciting from here. Before I let you go, I want to remind you about the Hail Mary t-shirts, the Smoking Hot Confessions community on Facebook, and if you have a minute, it'd really help me out if you could subscribe, rate, and review the show. The ratings and reviews trigger the algorithms and make Apple distribute the podcast further and wider, so they are really important and very much appreciated. And that's the end of the show. Till next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.